Hi everyone, welcome to In the Metal for another episode of the world of independent watchmaking, as brought to you from Ireland and from the United States, and also tonight linking up once again with Switzerland. As you might know by now, and even if you don't, In the Metal is a weekly behind the scenes look at the lesser seen corners of the watch industry, and in particular the independent watch sector. Independence means we have there are companies who are owned, privately owned or family owned. There also are individuals who are manufacturing and creating what I and the broader watch appreciating community would consider to be modern day contemporary horological masterpieces. And over the last number of weeks, we've had some of the most incredible talents in this sector come join us for a conversation. And tonight we've an absolute well, he would be considered to be a legend in independent watchmaking, looked up to by so many different brands. He's a hands-on dealings with brands, with individuals, and problem solver, inventor, mathematician, scientist, award winner, Guinness World Record holder. The list goes on and on and on for this gentleman tonight. So to follow on from an amazing episode that we had last week with the prodigious guy McElherron, tonight Dan and myself are joined by Andreas Strehler. So to help me in welcome Andreas on board, like to pop across to North Carolina and say, how's it going there, Dan?
What's going on, my man Johnny? How you doing over there?
It couldn't be better, Dan. It is all good, all good. So somehow we've managed to get this one off the ground tonight, because there was a bit of a panic station about an hour ago when all my images decided not to upload, and I go, oh my God.
We'll pummel through anything, my man, especially to have this guest on tonight. You know, this is really, really rare to speak to Andreas, because he's the watchmaker to the watchmakers, to all of us. If some of us get stuck, or some of us are in the middle of designing something extremely complicated and we are stuck, behind the scenes, there Andreas's phone rings, you know, or if it's actually a mechanism we can't even complete on any of our machines, he's the man you go see. He's it. It's mind blowing what he's done, and what he's done for independent watchmaking. Because he started, you know, in the Wayback Machine when everything was against all of us in the 90s. And who would ever think where we are today? And not only that, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records. So it's the first time we have a Guinness Book of World Records winner on our show. It's just, I don't even know what to say, right? His moon phase, all right, I put it into perspective for people that don't understand. He has a moon phase calendar on one of his watches, tells you the phases of the moon, and that's the Guinness Book of World Records. That's one of his many patents. That's accurate to more than 2 million years of perfection.
2 million years?
Yeah, you want me
to? It's unbelievable. Absolutely.
That's insane.
You know. Yeah. So look, but that's only one of his achievements. Yeah. He's been the youngest ever member of the full member of the AHCI when he was invited. Mm-hmm. He has won the Gaia Award. He has created one of his first innovations and creations, the Tisch calendar.
That's badass.
Well, here, most people I know still don't understand it, and we know some heavy-hitting watchmakers, and they still can't say, how the hell does he do that? Because that's inspired by Abraham Louis Brigway. He took it to another dimension, and so we'll have a little look at that. I did salvage some images, so we'll have a look at that too. So here, I think we should time is precious when you're in the presence of a legend. So I know you're a legend, Dan, but here we've got another one to talk to as well. So it's time to welcome Andreas Strehler. An honor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Andreas.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for coming on the show today. We greatly appreciate it. Not just us, but everyone that is viewing now and that will view into the future. All the knowledge that you can and insight you can give us, because it's our honor.
I try to give you every information you need.
Tell us how to do what you do.
Well, I guess let's, if you want to start.
Yeah, welcome to my workshop. This is just my workbench and office space. The workshop itself, it's there are other rooms, but here I'm doing most of my creation, designing, assembling, testing, finishing. Lot of stuff I'm doing here.
And for what I understand, do you also live where your workshop is?
Yeah, just upstairs.
Just upstairs. So truly, once again, we're showing that independent watchmaking, when the term in-house was invented, it's greatly, discombobulated at this point, but you are truly in-house. You live where you work. And that's really what this is all about. Same here. It's in my house. And for those, we'll get into this later, but for those who need to understand, Andreas has a massive facility. Okay, it's not in his little basement. It's massive in modern day industrialized facility. And he works both old school, traditional ways, and he embraces all kinds of new technology to get the precision that we need. So I guess we should start where we always start, right, Johnny? And ask Andreas who his biggest influences were and how you kind of fell into watchmaking. From what I understand, you were hanging out in a bakery a lot. And so was I. I'll get to that.
Yes.
I want to hear your bakery story first.
I look forward to listening to this.
Bakery story.
I'll just enjoy my little cup of tea here and in my plane.
Making watches in a bakery, Andreas.
Yes, it was my grandfather who had a bakery, and I grew up there. My first 10 years in a bakery. So yeah, that was my life. At that time, I was sure I will become a baker and kind of food artist or something. But when my grandfather died, yeah, everything changed.
Right,
so
your father was not a baker. Your father did something else.
No,
correct?
It was my mother. My mother was a baker, but yeah, we had to sell the house with the bakery, and we moved to another house. And then the hobby of my father became more and more important because he liked watches. He still likes watches, and he repaired the watches. And so I was influenced by my father, for sure. And first, I always wanted to become an inventor, a creator, more and more a watchmaker, and today I'm both.
That's just great. When I was growing up, my parents instilled in me work. So I had a lot of jobs young because I needed to buy new guitars, Andreas. It's like watch machines and tools and everything that we need now. It's the same disease. It's really bad. You can't never find the perfect guitar, right? So I was always working, and I ended up in my I think 11th or 12th grade of school. I started working at a bakery too, and I was the guy making the cakes. And the guy really liked me, took me in the back and gave me all the secret recipes. And I had my arm in the Hobart machines, mixing all that stuff and baking all the cakes and then delivering them as well. So I thought actually I was going to fall into that a little bit, but music obviously ended up being pretty much okay for me. it kind of pushed the flower away to the other side. So I could definitely relate. And So it was your father that inflicted the disease upon you. Wow, that's great. That's awesome. He was a watch collector, and he was repairing them in the house, and the disease fell upon you. So so from there you went to school. You decided to go to a traditional school, correct?
I did. The school time was normal, and I wasn't really a good student at school. But in watchmaking school, everything changed because I was motivated to do something. I saw what I can do. I didn't know everything first because when I discovered the library in the watchmaking school, so I read all the books, everything, all night. I was reading books about watchmaking, about machines, about engraving, everything, all the time. And so, like this, I discovered George Daniel's book, and this changed everything. He showed that it is possible to do it, not just, you don't need every kind of machine. You can just do it by your hand. And sure, this was for, I will say, for the most of the independent watchmakers today, it was the initial arc which starts everything.
It's a pivotal. As me and Johnny go through, and we are finally getting to interview some of the greatest minds of what we do. It seems this that one book has been so pivotal across the board for so many, even young watchmakers of today. We know that because that's their traditional insight if they can't get to Switzerland and go to school like you or I. But even for you or for all of us, it did show. You explained it the best, I think. You read it and you're like, wait a minute, I don't have to just repair watches. There is a way. How can I? There is a way out. Like I can make my own creation, my own art. And that's really what independent watchmaking is. And I'm glad it has evolved since the time that you started, which to me, I was part of your time as well, going to school in the 90s in Switzerland and working for companies over there. It still seemed very impossible. I told you before we started, I would just see a little picture of Gerber's triple rotor, like a little teeny ad in a magazine. I'd see you and look at you guys like you were God. Like how are they doing it? It was still the dark ages. None of the secrets were out, right? You couldn't watch a YouTube video to see somebody how they did anglage or perlage. You could, if you didn't learn it in school, it had to be the George Daniels book.
And it was an amazing time too when you got started, Andreas, because you were in company of the Grunefels, the McGonagalls, you were Remy and Papo, and there was so many, influences going on all around you. These are the people that were the actual fire starters, yourself included, for this whole sector that is now a real bona fide, you got to take it seriously, sector in the watch industry, where 15 years ago, not so much. But
but back then, the birth of independent watchmaking, which really should be pushed a little bit more and talked about a lot more, is somehow where Andreas fell into, which is Renault and Papet. That was the first independent movement maker. Okay, that was against the law back then, right, Andreas? Like, I'm going to build a factory and make movements, but it's not going to be for a name brand. They somehow, he managed to do it. I know I've been there a few times. I was working with Corum. They wanted to do a watch with my name on it and all that kind of stuff. And you might have actually been there when I was there. I don't know. And I saw that firsthand. I saw that firsthand when they would walk around and point it at a Wilhelmine machine, which I know you have in your facility. And he'd say, I could have bought a Ferrari, but I bought this instead, right? Those guys were hungry like we were. Well, we are, for independent watchmaking.
Yeah. When I started in 91 at René Papi. And then I was, they just moved to the facility in Le Locle. and I was the first employed watchmaker. Because the other three watchmakers there was Giulio Papi, Dominic Renault, and Robert Kreubel, and I was the first which was not member of the board. So I became responsible for the prototype. So the first thing I had to do is to make a prototype, and I stayed there. I continued to improve prototypes for the serial production. Later came other watchmakers like the Grönefeld brothers, first Bart, then Tim. And Bart became responsible for the assembling department and so on. So we are still friends, we know each other, and we are well connected still.
Great guys. I remember he was doing a lot of the Panerai stuff. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I don't really give a shit.
I don't know.
yeah, you don't know nothing. I know. I'll take it. But that's what it was about, and that's really right, Andreas. That's what independent watchmaking is about. We want to produce our own art, right? Like what I'm doing here, and shortly we'll release. But really, it's the love of helping others, right? And to get to where they need to go, because all of us don't know everything. And even if we think we know everything, we get to a point where we feel like we're so stupid we can't fix this one little thing, and we have to put it in the safe and wait for an epiphany to happen so we can figure that last little problem out. And that achievement, that's what we strive to be. That's what we love as micromechanical artists. And those guys, you were like right in it, man. That's what pushed you. That quite obviously, you were surrounded by genius. You know?
Yes, for sure.
Innovators.
And it was really the beginning. So I had very interesting products to work on, like small mini repeaters, chiming watches, and lots of things. I'm not sure if I can mention them today, because we made them for companies which was a secret that we've been working for them. I don't know if they published in the meanwhile, but I keep it secret.
Yeah.
We won't tell anybody, Andreas.
No.
Yeah, you sure, but I think there's somebody else listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what we are showing, Andreas, to all the collectors and the people that love independent watchmaking, love what you do, and the incredible watches that you produce, and the rest of us, is to show them what the term ghost building means, because they don't really understand all the help that's going on behind the scenes, and the geniuses behind the scenes, who later on usually become an independent watchmaker. They don't it's not in their soul to work for someone else. But there is ghost building going on, just as in music. This is always a great flip-flop for me to show, that there's plenty of musicians, especially all the pop stars, that are on stage, and everyone thinks they're singing that hit song and that they wrote it. They didn't write it. It's the ghost writer. And you never know who that is. He's just given a nice check and he gets his publishing, but that's what he does. He's a great hit writer. And it's the same over in Switzerland and in a lot of other places now in the world, where there's just ghost builders. They're specialists in a certain part of the timepiece or the whole timepiece, like Renault and Pape attempted to take on and did. And that was genius. They helped a lot of us back then. They helped the industry get where it is today as far as independent watchmaking goes. Wow. Oh, wait. I did want to touch upon one thing. I did read something that your dad was driving an Impala, an American car.
No, it was my grandfather.
Oh, it's your grandfather.
Yeah.
A Chevy Impala.
How did he get a Chevy Impala?
A Chevy Impala of, I think it was of 72 or 3, something around this. It was a huge car, and and he was not so big. I think he was less than 150. So 1.50 high. So he was a small one who was driving a big car. Yeah.
And not only that, the gas is like $37 a gallon over there. So just to get to get to the bakery, it was like everything he made that day.
About, yes.
Yeah.
You know, guys with cars are, you know, it's. But as you're saying there, Andreas, about how back in those days you had that cohort of a band of brothers, if you like, and they're all working on projects from, as you say, you can't divulge who you were working for, but the big companies were knocking on the doors of Renault Papi, looking for technical innovation, looking to be able to finish projects that were maybe started elsewhere, or how to make them work. Or Joe, and I have seen that. I know I've seen in John McGonigal's. I tell you, I'm lucky enough to be there and see some pieces of going, what's that doing here? And you know, Omerta, sword design.
Well, they also embraced CNC at a very pivotal time, you know, and not only
CNC,
just they didn't just buy the CNC machine. It's like Andreas, like you're doing, I suppose. You know, I built my own CNC machines here from my own ideas to get going, and that's the point. Is that we should talk about that. That people think that, you know, we just buy a CNC machine and we like press the number 1. And the number 1 represents the palette fork, and we just hold our hand out, and it like falls in our hand. That's the perception people have. But we're showing them, me and Johnny, that we call it, they're really prototype CNC machines, what we use, and we change these machines, every one of us, to help create the art that we need, and it's a time-consuming endeavor, and that's what they did early on, which obviously you're continuing on today. So let's touch upon that a little bit. I know you have some incredible, like a couple Willemans there, and you got some wire order machines. Just an incredible facility. Can you touch upon? Are you the programmer? Did you go to school? Did you self-taught? What 3D programs are you working in? Is it SolidWorks, et cetera, et cetera?
I did most myself at the beginning. But then now I have employees. We are about 10 in the workshop. So I'm not doing everything for my team. So my team is there to help me. Yeah. And but often I have like you said, people come visiting my workshop. They say, "Oh, with these huge machines and everything, it's easy to make a watch." And then I explain, there are many companies who have this kind of machines, and they are making just a screw or something, but they never make a watch. But it's much more than having machine. Machine is a tool, and it just helps you. But the creativity doesn't come from the machine. So. And I have milling machines, wire cuts, gear cutting machines, CNC lathe, Swiss type lathe. But I have also all the traditional machines, like a jig boring machine, which was my first machine at all. I started with a jig boring machine, and I still use it every day. It's still the same machine. I use it every day, and sure. There, I'm probably the one who knows the best how to work on it, because at the beginning, when I made the Tisch calendar, or when I made the 2 pocket watch, everything was made by hand on a jig boring machine. Jig boring machine and the Schäuble 102. This was the beginning. Like this, I started. The first stuff was all handmade, but more and more, it wasn't. People are thinking when you move to CNC, it's because you want to produce cheaper, but it's not the way. It gives you more possibility. It gives you more freedom for creation. If you're doing it one by one by hand, then one piece is adjusted to the next. When you break it, you have to begin from 0. But if you make at least the blanks, the raw pieces by CNC, then you can go back a step easier, even for prototypes. And today the workshop has an area of about 400 square meters.
Wow.
It's
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 massive.
an old textile factory, and yeah. But the machines, they are not the tiny little watchmakers machines as people are thinking when they think of watchmaking. The chick boring I started was 1,000 kilograms, and the heaviest machine we have today, which is the wire cutting machine, it has about 4,000 kilograms, 4 tons. It's they are heavy machines. But
So
if you like,
your jig boards is probably a Hauser, like a 2A.
yes,
Yeah,
a Haute 2BA.
yeah. Well, you found the Hauser way back when. They were tons and tons of money back then. At least now, right, Andreas? I don't know if you're seeing, but this new generation of independent watchmakers that's being birthed because of people like you, they're able to find the machines that in the early 90s were too expensive for us because everyone else at the big factories has moved to CNC and at a quite reasonable place and restore them, bring them back to life. And that's birthing this next level of independent watchmakers, the younger watchmakers, because they can find a Chablin 102 or a 70. I mean, I have them all here too. We need them no matter what we use. We still make a lot of parts by hand. And it's birthing this next level, which is beautiful to watch. They're able to have a Hauser. That's the key to making your first nameplate. If you don't understand CNC and what you just explained. Excuse me, I got a bug flying around me. You just explained exactly what me and Johnny are trying to show people, that even after we use CNC to make raw parts, it's really prototype. They're just as raw as they come off the Hauser. The way we're making them, we're not looking to finish them and do the anglage on the machine and do the perlage so it comes off and it's like bubblegum. It's all it is so that we can make 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of those parts and they're all the same in the end. And the time to make that first part is months, if not longer. I mean,
from the design to the part, it takes months. That's right. Yes. But once I decide to make a part, so I have the drawing done and everything, I can push it to make it in a short time. I even build a proper CNC machine, which one of the machines it has to keep in weight measures. It's about 1,500 kilograms. It's just for wheel cutting and turning parts, but it's built in the way that you can program it quite easy to have a part within 24 hours, a first part, a good part. And this was I've built about 10 years ago. It's even 15 years ago. The time goes fast. And so often when I work on a machine, I think, it could be better this way, and none of my machines is still like it was when it was delivered. So I needed to transform everything, not because it wouldn't be possible to make the part, but I find a way to make it more reliable, to make the part more productive.
It's the way
because even in prototyping, the time counts. We can't work years and years and years on a new product. We have to create it, to deliver it in a certain time. So and we have to create a lot of things.
This is something that you have become absolutely a leader in your field at, Andreas, is the development of prototypes for different brands. And I know a great friend on recently, Mark Schwartz, who there's no secret that you two have worked together on that one. And even Mark Cheny is working on that project now as well. So it's amazing, this family. But the point here is that you are constantly developing profound solutions for watchmaking, for young watchmaking companies and for existing watchmaking companies, and that is what Uhrteil AG is all about. Really, it's that I described it yesterday. I was writing a little post to promote this and described it as a lab, an innovations lab, because it really is a laboratory where you're applying. So what we're saying here, yeah, it takes months to maybe develop a component, which you might do in the other side of your business, which is Andreas Strehler. Now I think we may have lost your mic there. You're back.
Well, what we're trying to show, Johnny, is that it's almost impossible for independent watchmakers to find someone such as Andreas. It basically is impossible. And say, hey, I'd like to do a prototype, or I'd like to make 7 of these pieces, or I'd like to make 7 a year, and I can do this much in my place, right? But I don't have the machines or the other ways to accomplish the rest. And have someone like Andreas who can finish their project in a timely manner, and catapult independent watchmakers to get their product out there. And we need more Andreases on this earth. He's basically just giving his love to other people. He doesn't have to. Andreas he can make 2 or 3 extra watches with his name on it a year, and he could smoke his cigar and chill. But he's given his love back, and I find that beautiful. That's the way we all should be.
There's 2 very distinct sides to what Andreas is doing there. So as I said, but we will come to that anyway. We'll come to these things as we go through, because it didn't all start suddenly with an atelier with 10 people in it, and suddenly just bish bash bosh putting out pieces. So one of the first pieces that you created, it was 20 years ago or 21 years ago, was not a watch at all. Well, it was, but it was more than a watch. So it was called, I don't know if you're familiar, Dan, I'm sure you are, the Tisch calendar, the table calendar. And if it's okay, I think maybe have a look at some of these pieces that we've looked at now. Now, I don't have a technical view of this piece, but we have a couple of examples, images like this here. So this is how it was presented. It is an absolutely elegant and beautiful table clock, but it was more than a table clock. And you could explain this to us, Andreas, because I know that greater minds than mine, and that would not be hard, have not figured out how you've done this here, because the pocket watch, this is essentially, it is a perpetual calendar. The entire unit is a perpetual calendar, day, date, month, leap year, and but the beauty of this piece was that you could take that pocket watch away and travel for 2, 3, 4 months, whatever. The rest of the unit would stop working, would just go into hibernation. And when you return back and set the watch back into that cradle, the whole calendar reset itself. And this
in perpetual time. So if you were in February and you traveled and came back in March, the correct day and date will show. It's insane.
Basically, the system is it's all mechanic. First of all, there's no motor, no memory, no battery, nothing. All there are springs. That's all. Springs, levers, and gears.
Yeah.
I showed it first in 1998 in Basel, so it's even a bit more. Another point, you're not right. You can't be away more than 3 weeks. So, but 3 weeks is enough for holidays. So it's fair enough. So when you take off the pocket watch, the watch stores the time which goes by, because the calendar has no timekeeping element. So he just indicates, he does nothing more. So when you come back with the watch knows the time which has been since. You put it back, then the calendar will mechanically ask the watch if there's a correction to do. And the logic is quite binary. So the watch just says yes. And the calendar then changed one day. And he asks again, can I change? The watch says yes. And he changes again until the memory in the watch is empty, and then it stops. It's quite a simple logic, binary logic. And the calendar itself, so to know which month has how many days and so on, this is all in the calendar. It's not in the watch. The watch stores just the time which goes by.
So the
and
right.
It's all mechanical, and the big difference compared to the sympathetic by Abraham Louis Breguet, which was recopied by several companies, but it was always a copy of the original system because everybody said, yes, we have to do the original idea, which is traditional. And I said, no, I have to create something new. The difference is that the watch stores a value, and the value will be transmitted immediately at the moment you put the watch in. The sympathetic of Abraham Louis Breguet was a simpler way. There was to set the watch at, let's say, midnight. So it was just like a chronograph. So at midnight, the watch was in the cradle, and the desk clock, it was a clock, desk clock was setting the watch just to zero, like resetting a chronograph. So no mechanical memory needed, no synchronize, it's just a resetting. Sure, there have been systems which wound the watch or which pushed the regulator a bit to adjust it a bit, but basically it was just a simple action at a certain moment. And my system was different. It was to transmit a stored value mechanically to an indicating device. So at that time we hadn't the phones which synchronized with the computer. We had perhaps just pocket calendar systems which been synchronized with a computer. But I just wanted to show that mechanical solutions can do the same as electronic solutions.
And you brought this to Basel Fair way back when, and just did someone let you bring it to their booth, or did you walk around with it, or and what did people perceive this to be? This is like a young watchmaker walking around with a spaceship under his arm, right? Back then, like what
nearly.
Like, right?
I was showing in Basel, 1998. It was Paul Gerber and Sven Andersen has been my, my godfathers for the academy. So they allowed me to come. And I was sure at the time, I was young, I was 27 years old. And then I was sure, it's like you read it in the magazines, a new things, a fantastic new product. And I was sure I have something invented nobody did before. I did much more than many other companies. Mm-hmm. And I was sure it will be a success. It has to be a success. Mm-hmm. Then the week of Basel Fair went by, and I took it in my box, and I left the fair and nothing changed. Then I understood that it's not the product which sells. You have to sell it yourself. You have to communicate. So I started to contact the magazines and so on to have at least something as a feedback. But most of the specialists then, some didn't believe that a young, independent nobody could do such complex things. Mm-hmm. Others said, I had some friends who worked at Parmigiani, as example. At that time, Parmigiani was restoring old Breguet pieces. And they said, why did you do it so modern, so different? Why didn't you do just a copy of Breguet's one? You could sell it immediately. But why did you do something new? And I said, I'm not Breguet. I do it my way. And it's the style of today. I'm not recopying a style of 200 years ago. Breguet, when he created his product, he didn't make a copy of a 200-year-old stuff. He created new stuff. So, and that was, a bit a hard time. It was really hard. And it took years until I had commercial success.
Mm. So Basel world with a watch, and this time you were sure this was the Zwei. Yes.
Yeah. So people said just it's because the thing is too expensive. It takes too much time. So it was 3,000 hours of work and lapis lazuli, gold and whatever. And then it came the Zwei, yes. And I said, okay, I have another idea. I can do something a bit less expensive, just one watch, not a big thing. And again, I adapted an indication way like digital watches are doing. I'm using one display to indicate several indications. So we have the hour and minute hand, which shows the time. When I push on the button, the hands moves each one independently from each other, and they show months and date. And you release the button, it goes back. And even for setting it, when it shows the time, you set the time. When it shows the date, you set the date. And all mechanical. So for this piece, I made a patent, and I showed it in '99, immediately after the Tisch calendar, and then it was even it was a cool piece, but in the other way, it made a mess to the public because people have been thinking, yes, the calendar does now all these functions. And it was modified to a pocket watch. No, it's a new piece with a similar design. That was all.
Totally.
So everything you see here, except on this piece, the balance wheel, the shock protections, and the jewels, all the stuff here has been made on the lathe and the jig boring machine. So it was. At that time, I was one of the first who used frosting on the bridges. It was an entirely frosted movement in the old style. So it's a silver grain frosting, which is really old school, but it has only a minimalistic bevel, not the high glance bevel we are doing normally. So I did also create a new style of movement, and the reaction of the people has been, when you go to finish the watch. And today, when you look at the watches today, many companies are going this way. They are making frosting, pure finishing, and not the overglance, the kitsch nearly, like most are doing. The new ones are doing the frosting. So it's
you started a trend, dude.
This is 20 years ago.
It's hard when you start something, like you start a trend and everything is against you. It's because you're breaking the moment. But that's what independent watchmaking is. Everything you just said proves the point of what independent watchmaking and modern day independent watchmaking is. It's mechanical, micro-mechanical art, and it's your vision of how you want your art. It's just that somehow, some way, luckily we have, technology has changed. We just need to find those few people around the world who are the collectors and appreciators of your art. Just like in the old days, struggling artists who painted, they struggled. We know their stories. It wasn't until after they were dead that their art is appreciated. It's the same in music as well. If you're ahead of the curve like my music was, it came out, no record company wanted to sign it. They didn't sign us. They didn't want Metallica, right? The highest grossing live band in the history of all of music. It couldn't get signed. We had the same manager for 2.5 years. It sounds like the toilet flushing. It's crap. This is crap. But that's what they told us. If you break the mold, you're the innovator. You just got to stay that course is what we're trying to tell all of you who are watching here. If you are a young independent watchmaker, believe in yourself. It'll come back around. You'll learn the process, but don't fall into the trap, bro. Don't fall into the trap, because it's not you. You're faking it. The fakeness will come back around. That's just great, man. You're right. There's so many people doing the old, gold English frosting and the German way. It's I like it. It's to each his own. Killer, man.
We have a question on that very point at the minute regarding Grenache, and so it's Roy Severston. Thank you for joining us, Roy. Nice to see you. I think it's your first time commenting here. So, how Andreas, how do you go about the Grenache?
The old school Grenache, the old school frosting. Today, many are doing it in a modern way with lapping powder, with some are doing sandblasting and so on. But the old school way is with silver powder, and it's a mixture of silver, salt, and a stuff which is called crème tartare. It's the crystals which remains in the bottle when you drink a wine. These crystals helps, and there you have to do a mixture. It's a bit complicated, and sometimes it works. Most time it never works. Then you brush it on and brush and brush and brush and brush, and then it becomes. It's like a silvering process, which becomes not polished. It becomes Grenache.
Yeah,
that's the old way.
Excellent.
But I have to tell you that it was 20 years ago. I didn't know a bit about it. I did some tests and nothing more. I didn't reach to make it at the beginning. Then I went to visit a clock restoring atelier. I didn't know he knows the way, because he does a lot of dial restoration of Marian chronometers. I said, tell me, how are you doing it? They said, no, I don't tell you, it's my business. And then I found out that you never can ask somebody only by asking. You have to bring your idea, your way, and it helps him perhaps to see it another way, but together we can get the right way. And so I explained my way, how I'm doing it, and he explained, yes, but you have to respect this and this. Never use a brush which has iron wire in it, because the rust will disturb everything, and stuff like this. And so I learned his way, and yeah. Today, sure, with YouTube we have an absolutely different approach. We are searching for the solution. It's a different way. I feel it's okay because we have to change our knowledge.
If I knew that the technique for Grenache came from the bottom of a bottle of wine, let me tell you, I could provide you with plenty of raw ingredients to do that.
The whole Irish population would be opening up Grenache stores. Oh,
brilliant.
That's
So
awesome.
actually another comment there from because this is taking us off track a little bit, away from Tisch calendar, away from the Zwei. But
I have a technical question before we start getting really long. On one of your timepieces, Andreas, you decided to make I think it's the hour and the minute wheel out of sapphire glass. Can you explain why and how you tested for longevity and how that has been holding up? And that's very, very interesting to us watchmakers.
It was basically a design decision. When I made the first the Papillon Classic, the first Papillon watch. Johnny, I think you have a picture of it.
Yes.
And on this watch, I wanted to show a watch where only the movement is shown. So no hands, no dials. It's just a movement, an absolutely different movement, not a reusing of something existing, really something new. So, at the end, I wanted still to show the time, and I wanted to show the time on top of the mainspring barrels, so kind of mysterious time indication. And for this, I found the solution with sapphire wheels. Sure, I could use the steel wheels, which makes a similar effect when the background is steel and the front is steel, but I wanted to try sapphire wheels, and I found a supplier who machined them for me. So I didn't machine them myself, and he made me the wheels. And but the special thing is the gear train to drive the wheels, because they're on top of mainspring barrels, but they never could move in the speed of a mainspring. So they have a proper hand setting gear, and it works, like you said, long time, because these wheels are at the end of the powertrain, so they have nothing to drive themselves. They are just moving. They have no force needed. They should just change position. So I don't see any problem with it. But it would be not possible to use it as a gear train, as
yeah.
Then it wouldn't work. Then it would work like a saw, and it would cut the pinion. So
it's so beautiful, and the papillon, the whole the concept of the butterfly wings as being to integrating that into the design of the movement to replace the plate, if you like. And I saw these watches first, and I just could not believe what I was looking at. And again, all part of my journey in discovering independent watches, because it was easy. And I think I can remember writing about that watch, Andreas, many moons ago. And I mentioned another brand in that article, saying, "Oh, Andreas has also worked with all." And I remember meeting you one day and saying, "Change that article." And I went home and changed that article.
No, way ahead of his time. We all were watching your movements, Andreas, way back then, and just saying like how, what, where, when. And if we look now, right, it's almost the norm for people to produce similar looking. There's no dial, the gear train's on the front, the sapphire dates and day and disc rings and all that. I just find I like, I'm an innovator. I was an innovator in my music before. It was 20 years ahead of its time, right? You're finally hearing all my music on TV commercials and all that. When back then we said, yeah, that'll be the day that they play this stuff on TV, right? Now it's on every TV commercial. So I love people who break the rules and who are way ahead of their time. And then that's what you do, man. That's how your mind works. It's incredible. Fascinating story. Thank you for answering that. And again, the hour wheel and the minute wheel, they don't take torque. So yeah, it works. I don't know how they. I don't know how they cut them, but I know you need diamond tools and whatever. But
no, they're laser cut.
Laser. Okay.
Yeah. Today, laser is the solution.
But there you go. There is a thing about what you do, because there are different schools of watchmaking. Some people are traditionalists, like we had McElherron last week, very traditional, making everything himself. You're incorporating traditional techniques with modern technology to achieve. And so you're not afraid to go and use something laser cut, sapphire glass. It doesn't have to be individually the teeth cut by hand by some poor sod having to do that.
Yeah.
So, but that enables you and empowers you to go and create these things, these pieces. So no.
Yeah. Well, why would an artist limit his art if it's in us?
Yeah, that's the point.
That's it.
Like I said before, Breguet didn't limit his possibilities by the techniques of 200 years ago. he used everything he could at that time. So sure, I put certain limitations to my creations. I want to create watches which are repairable in the future, in the far future. That is my goal. I don't want watches which needs a replacement part, an original replacement part, and they wouldn't be repairable without. So I want to create watches like in this way, like Breguet did. If you take an old Breguet watch, if it wasn't destroyed by a bad watchmaker, you can take it apart, clean it, put it together, and it works. If a part is broken, you can take the broken part as a sample, you can rebuild it, and it works. And this is the way watches should be created. But today's industrial watches are more and more mechanical industrial watches are more difficult, let's say. A good example is the silicon. Watches which only works with the silicon parts. And if it comes a bad watchmaker, he does a bad manipulation, then the part is broken immediately. If he does it with an old, let's say, classical hairspring, then it's bent, you can redress it, and it works again. But with a silicon part, you have to replace it with a silicon part. If the part is no longer available, then the watch is dead. And that's what I don't want to create. I want to create objects with a value which keeps its value, with its technical value and its monetary value, for sure. And it can only keep the value if it can be restored in the future. So only this will remain in the future. So this is my goal, to go on my watches especially, but also on creations I make for other companies. I try to include as much as possible this way.
Again, if you're watching this and you're a collector, this is what you just said, Andreas, is what we keep trying to educate those who are maybe new to independent watchmakers, such as yourself or myself, and are looking to purchase a timepiece. And that is one of the questions I always used to get as a repairman. Well, if I buy a watch from him, I'm going to get the part. And then you have to tell them, hey, buddy, the patent in Switzerland on, giving your Patek, well, whatever company, timepiece a part is only 20 years. So after 20 years, I have to make that part anyway. So if they're making your watch and all those gears so thin and so stamped and crappy that that part cannot be made on my Chablin or my gear cutter or my Sierra F1s here, your watch can't be fixed. So the moral of the story is independent watchmakers such as yourself, and what I build, what Roger W. Smith builds, we were once restorers. So what we build can be fixed by any competent, traditionally trained watchmaker forevermore. Every part we put in it, the metal we're using, we don't just go grab a piece of brass or grab a piece of German silver. It's a certain kind, it's a certain metallurgy that in the future we know, because we've had 200-year-old watches on our bench, both me and Andreas, and we know it will last another 200 years when it leaves our bench again if we've restored it. And there's nothing we can't make in it. And that's how Andreas makes his timepieces. So there's your safety factor for anyone who's thinking about purchasing one of Andreas's creations, or any independent watchmaker that has, sticking to those rules of building, and that should be known.
I have a question on that subject, and I don't know whether you can answer it. I don't know whether we're free to answer it, because maybe there's connections or associations or projects that are connected. But I look at the race to the ultra slim mechanical watch, be it with Bulgari or be it with Piaget, and they're constantly lowering the bar, if you like, about how fine you can get a tourbillon watch, a self-winding watch, a manual winding watch, to the side that they are little more than the width of a coin. So are we saying that watches that are made to those tolerances are likely to be problematic 50 years time?
Andreas, right? Let's me and Andreas pick one part each inside that movement, okay? I'll pick the balance staff. Me and Andreas can't make it. It's that
It's
simple.
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to make such a balanced stuff. It is possible, but it's, the bigger problem I see with the wheels. The wheels are so thin, the gears are so nearly nothing. It's not, in my opinion, it's not built for the eternities. It's built, it's perhaps a bit unfair to say, but it's built to be sold and after this repaired by original parts. But when we are at this point, it's we are at the same point as on quartz watches. Quartz watches are nice watches. There are companies which made beautiful quartz watches, but a quartz watch is only repairable with the original parts. And so people said, no, we want mechanical watches because they are repairable in the future. But we are going now, or certain companies are going away, that the watch will be unrepairable except by exchanging parts. And so we are back at the same level as quartz watches. So then when it is at the same level, you can say, if you want a daily watch, then easier take a quartz watch. It is the same unrepairable as other watches. So really handmade or classical made watches are more likely repairable than these products.
No,
but it's an interesting challenge to go flat, because everybody needs challenges for creations. I did a challenge with an extremely precise moon phase. I did it for fun, but it didn't change the repairability of the watch. There are just 4 gears. That's just the right use of numbers.
Exactly. At the start, that you really didn't have much interest in school, and you've become this profound mathematician who can do these calculations, and not only that, but execute the. We'll come to the moon phase in a moment.
Yeah, but you just said something really interesting, because it's not
just me.
Yeah, it's not just me, but a lot of my friends are the same way. Past is musicians. We hated school. I freaking hated school. I left school at every minute to get home to practice my guitar or sneak out to do a band practice somewhere. At 13, I was already playing live at the bars and everything, and actually touring. So. But if it's something we love, I can figure out all kinds of mathematical principles or whatever it is in music, whatever that may be, that I have to figure out as a lead guitar player, or these scales. It's all math. Everything's based on math. And it's the same thing. Andreas told us, he didn't really like school too much, but I feel that a lot of us are like that. We have to have obsessive compulsive disorder. That's the top the top qualification, right? And then it's just like he said, oh, it was just a couple gears and a bunch of numbers. No.
I know,
yeah, it is.
No, he didn't sleep a long time, man. You figured that out.
Listen, I want to talk. We've got a couple of questions here, and I think it's only fair on the people who are visiting or joining us every week. Martin Goldsmith said about 3/4 of an hour ago that he is Maurice Lacroix Le Chronograph that Monsieur Strehler designed for them. I remember that. I remember Maurice Lacroix going out on a new direction, and a brand that I always liked, Maurice Lacroix, I have to say. And when they took on that new direction, they had the square, the roulette carré, and things got there. They were just thinking differently, which for a mainstream brand at that time, particularly in that price category, I was well impressed with. And the chronograph was a fantastic success for Maurice Lacroix, and really helped them establish themselves in that sector. A beautiful solution. And so that's Martin. Yeah. Thank you, Martin, for that lovely comment. And again, I agree with you. So we have a couple of questions. So from Captain Forrest from Helsinki, he's here with us every week. Of all the stunning watches and complications that you've made, what has been the most difficult to conceive, I thought it would be the lune perpetuelle of 2 million years, but obviously that was just done for a bit of fun. And what has been the most satisfying? We'll come to other questions in a few moments, people.
So the most complicated, there are complications in several ways. It's not only the complication of mechanism, there can be a complication of business managing and everything. There are a few watches which are quite complicated. When I think at the perpetual calendar I made for Moser, which when I was creating it, for me it was really a challenge, because the dimensions has been defined, the functions has been defined by Moser, and I had to fill in all the mechanism. And then they came, yes, but it had to be settable forwards and backwards and everything by the crown and so on, 7-day movement. And it became more and more complicated. And I said each time, yes, I see a solution. But the perpetual calendar, I've seen the solution, but it was so tight to put everything in there. The calendar is integrated in the whole movement, from dial side to back side. Everywhere I used every square millimeter I could use. And while I was working on it, I was saying to myself, if Paul Gerber reached to put all his complications in the Louis Elysée pocket watch, which became a wristwatch, if he found every space to put everything, I will find the space too. And so this was a really challenge. Another challenge for sure was the Opus 7. It doesn't look complicated, but the functions are so complicated. They are based on that's the perpetual for Moser. Yeah, you can see on the back side the star wheel for the leap year indication. Yes, it's integrated, and it's not only the indicator. Underneath the star wheels, there's a track which comments even the leap year, so it can't be offset of the leap year indication, so it's always the same. So it was really a challenge, this one. And when I look back on this watch, on the drawings, sometimes I'm saying, how could you have created this? There are solutions which are still surprising to myself. I found them. But it's often when I take old engineering work I did again, I look at them and I see solutions they remember, but I even forgot that I did it. So like the Opus 7, like I said, it's a fantastic watch, but it was a really challenge to do it in an extremely tight timeline. The timeline was so close. In summer 2006, it was still at concept, and in March 2007, we had the first prototype in Basel. Wow! Even building all the parts, everything. In this movement, there are 3 differential gears. There are switching indication. It's based on the patent of the Zwei, but it's all different. It looks basically simple, but it is absolutely not. It takes about the same time for adjusting every function like a minute repeater. So it's a complex watch, and I needed some help. So I had watchmakers in my company, but then it came the difficult years of 2008 and 9. Then I had some other helps from outside. Watchmakers I still didn't know from my time at Renault Papier. They helped me. Each one made 2 or 3 of them. Nearly, so I had some help. I still thank them for the help. But when one of these watchmakers assembled the first one, we made drawings for every step and so on. And nobody could understand how it works until it was first time assembled. You see gears and connections and levers and everything, but you don't see how it works, because the way it works is absolutely different to everything existing. It's absolutely different to every complication you know.
Yeah.
And this is a complicated piece, and between dial side and back side, the black main plate isn't just a covering something. It's not the dial, it's the main plate itself. So the same black thing from dial side and back side, and somewhere the gears and the mechanisms are located, and you can't really see them. And there are even 4 ball bearings we built in-house, and conical gears, many conical gears in the differential gears, and yeah, it's
your conical gears are a signature of what you're doing now.
Yes.
Well, you also make your own ball bearings, right?
That's astonishing too. Yeah.
That's
that's
insanity, bro. That's amazing.
Really.
Yeah.
I need some ball bearings, Japan. Hello, micro ball. No, takes too long. We'll just make them.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's only the balls. I buy the balls, but the whole rest we are building here.
Wow, exception.
And
right.
We make even complex differential gear ball bearings. So there's a ball track outside, then is a gear which is inside the ball bearing, and inside the gear is another ball bearing which has the satellite of the differential gear. We make things like this, and absolutely free running and little play. Yeah, crazy stuff.
Amazing. Yeah. Another question here from you. I'm sorry, I was hoping to show more images, but I certainly can't. If we've got people asking questions, that's what this is all about. And if it helps to inform. So Carl Lidgard, a different kind of a different aspect. What is it like to meet your first customers or your collectors? How have those relationships developed since that first moment or first meeting? And does that have any impact or effect or influence on your work? I assume if somebody's telling you what they'd like to see, that's bound to have an influence on you. And you've different kind of clients too. You've got private clients, and then you have young watchmakers who have different needs.
First, it took enormous time between my first creation to the first sold watch. Like I told, in 1998, I showed my first creation, and I sold my first watch in 2008. So it took 10 years.
Wow.
By chance, I had the possibility to work for companies, and by this way, I sold some watches, but they are not my own creations. So I worked a lot for Moser, for Maurice Lacroix and other companies. This helped me to survive. But in 2008, I sold my first watch, and it was funny. It was at 3 o'clock in the morning. The phone call ring, and I took up the phone. I was sleeping, and hello, and it was a collector from the United States. And he said, "Yeah, I saw your watches. Where can I get one?" So finally, I didn't sell him the watch because he wanted it immediately. And as you know, we have to build the watches, and I delivered just one watch to a shop to show in a shop. And I said to him, "Listen, the only place where there's a watch is in this shop." And it's a shop in Switzerland who had it. And I could build you another one within 3 months, but not faster. And okay, thanks, bye. Next morning, I got a call from the shop. We need a new strap. The watch is sold.
That's a great story.
Unfortunately, it wasn't my personal sale. It went through a watch shop, but it was my first contact with a customer. And at the end, we still have contact, and he explained me that he has already the Opus 7, and he wanted to have the Papillon also. Later, he bought some other watches from my collection, and yeah, he's a big fan.
Fantastic. If I could just say there for briefly, that must have been heartbreaking. It must have been soul destroying. 10 years of this craft and this trying to create something that was going to capture the attention, capture the imagination, capture the press, for example. And I suppose this was before the internet really as well, those years before Hodinkee and Monochrome and Horologic de Classe and the watch press all came online and started identifying the independence. How did you keep going? How did you keep that belief that someday somebody's going to buy one of these masterpieces? And how much is it worth now? That first one.
Give it back, bro.
Oh, how was it to? I had the chance that the industry did a better reaction than the wide public. So some did already know me from the time at René Papi, some did know me from Baselworld, other went through connections by colleagues of the academy and so on. But the industry was a big help to me. So one of the first who believed what I could do was Gerd Rüdiger Lang from Chrono Swiss. He wanted to have he called it the chronoscope, a monopusher chronograph just with a seconds hand. And he said, listen, it's quite easy. It's like on an old pocket watch. You put the seconds wheel around the minute hand and it will work. The pocket watch work, it will work. And I said, listen, on a wristwatch, we have to be more careful. Pocket watch has more power. And so I created at that time a floating gear on a ball bearing for the chronograph hand. So, which was a novelty. So it has no contact between the minute hand and the seconds hand, which goes around the axis of the minute hand, and it takes only 1.2 millimeters more than the original automatic movement. So even with a column wheel. So I created this in it was about 2000, 2001. It was winner of Watch of the Year in Germany in 2003, and more and more it came little jobs like this, and this helped to work. But some I worked for other colleagues who started their companies. There have been two old friends at the time from René Papi. One is called Mr. Greubel, Mr. Forsey. When they started as a two-man business, and so they needed somebody who makes the parts, and so I was a supplier for parts for them until they had their own team. So I worked for them, and so this helped me to survive. I think for young independent watchmakers, it's wrong to think, no, I go only on that, what I do, and if I die, I will only do this one watch. It's wrong. You have to be flexible. You have to survive.
Right, you have to eat. Yeah.
Well, but you still can continue with your philosophy.
But then it's a whole different time now for independent watchmaking because Instagram is a free magazine advertisement, where in the 90s, right, or early 2000s for us, you needed $5,000, $10,000 to take out a little ad, and you hoped something came about from it, right? and usually it didn't, because no one knows your name and there's no money behind you or partners, which is kind of breaks the rules of independent watchmaking. That's the goal. And now they have YouTube, right, Andreas? They have their own TV station. They can show them working. It's a wonderful time, but it's good that we can share these stories of our times from way back when. And the struggle was real, is what you all got to understand. The struggle was real to be a true independent.
And it still is.
And show you, it's still a,
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that leads us beautifully on to a question from the wonderful Pietro Tomayer. And I do. So, welcome, Pietro. Thank you so much for joining us. And so Pietro's question is, with the crisis that we are facing at the moment, with probably the economic downturn, with coronavirus, with 2020 in general, all this crap that's being flung from every direction, does Andreas also feel that watchmaking is going back to being a real form of art instead of just a commercial model? Probably both, wouldn't it? But let you answer that one, Andreas.
Yes, in a certain way, yes. Sure. The two big companies, like I don't mention the names, but they are trying to. Like they even did in the magazines, in a daily journal, they've been searching for engineers to industrialize artwork. So they try to do artwork, but they never will do it in a way you can't industrialize it. So a piece of art like I'm doing, I think that's an important thing. And like we see it also in my company, that we are mostly working for, if not for my watches, we are working for young companies, for startups, and they have not envisioned to become a big companies. They want just to create extreme watches. And like Waltz did, like others are doing, they want to create, and that's important.
I think I agree
Creativity.
with you. Yeah, I agree with Pietro. I think that the in the independent sector in particular has become much more an expression of the actual watchmaker's personality.
That's kind of what I was just saying. I'm in total agreement with you that it's because the younger generation is embracing the Instagrams and the YouTubes and showing the personality behind the artist. It really can get a feel for that, and that's what the collector falls in love with, because his personality, like Andreas's, becomes his micromechanical art. So now they're actually getting to see in real time, if Andreas had that time per se, if he was showing you that how he was working on his Shaolin 102 and making the conical gear or whatever these crazy stuff that he makes, or placing the ball bearings in. If you could actually see, him work, younger watchmakers are showing that on a daily basis. And it is really good for independent watchmaking. It's showing the true art form become that person's timepiece, and then showing the delivery of that timepiece to the collector. That's independent watchmaking of today, and it's great.
Today, I'm even doing like the time is difficult to meet the people. I'm doing even delivering videos where I'm boxing the watch, explaining the watch, everything. And the collectors appreciate, because the response was, it was like getting the watch personally. So I need to communicate with Zoom, with Skype, and so on. And I see there a big advantage at the moment with the situation we have. People respect to communicate this way. Before, when you said, let's meet on Skype, everybody said, no, we see us in 3 months. Today, when you say to somebody, let's meet on Skype, okay, in 5 minutes I'm there. So that's, I think we have also a little advantage this way.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the word important was mentioned you a few minutes ago. You said the watches that you're making are important. I agree. I think not only important, but they're historically significant. And that's a couplet of words that I have started using increasingly regarding independent watchmaking, that they are historically significant. And in years to come, we talked about Breguet earlier on. You know, why not Strehler in 50 years, 100 years, 200 years? You know, it's true. They will be looked upon as very important pieces. So I think it's an amazing time for independent watchmaking, and it's amazing to be part of it and to see that evolution over the last number of years. Andreas, we're nearly approaching our cutoff point. That we're supposed to do this for 1 hour, and it never happens. But we haven't even got to your Guinness World Record winning moon phase of 2.045 million years. So I don't know. Come back and there is.
You know what else we have to touch upon, Johnny, is we have to ask Andreas about his music. What when you were growing up, like what you listened to, what do you listen to now? Do you listen to music in the workshop, or your employees? Maybe fill us in a little bit on that. So were you at an Anthrax show, like headbanging? Yeah.
I'm a bit a difficult person because I prefer to have absolute quiet. So in my workshop, there's no music, no radio, nothing. I don't like when people are singing or something because it disturbs me. I always say you can, as long as I don't hear it, but I hear quite good. So that's a bit because
would definitely disturb me, I can tell you.
What about like outside the workshop, like at home? When you were growing up, did you listen to any kind of music?
Yes. When I was young, my mother was listening to radio all the time. So we had all kind of music what passed to the radio. So myself, I'm still listening music which remembers me this time. So it's more all-time music. So I'm listening a lot. I don't know if I can say this. The Beatles. Yeah, sure. That's still one of the preferred music I'm listening, especially when I'm traveling. That's to have a background, something, not to feel alone.
Right.
Yeah. But, you can't get cooler than that.
But
it's
at the workshop, I stopped to listen music because it disturbs me in my concentration. It only happens a few times a year, a month, I don't know, where I turn on music when I'm absolutely alone in the workshop. Only then, but then it's for repetitive work, something which I really know to do, when I don't need really to think about, where I have just to work. And then I can listen to music, but when I have to create, I don't know, it doesn't work for me.
You know what? It's okay, Andreas. Just to show you, I work in complete silence. Same thing. And even if I'm creating in CAD or at my bench, I need that silence. But the problem with me is the music is perpetually playing in my brain from the old days. Yeah. I'm trying to get rid of it. Get it out. I need a cleansing, you know? So it's okay, bro. Some of us we need that. And I agree. But I can maybe listen to some jazz, old school jazz, because it reminds me of my dad. That was blasting in our house, you know, old, Benny Goodman and stuff like that. But if I'm doing, if it's on and I'm thinking, or if it's really something complicated, which is mainly what me and you work on, right? it eventually, like the trumpet was started annoying me so much. I'm gonna break the freaking record player in 2 seconds. You know, I need quiet. I got my brain's got thing.
I even collected vinyl discs a lot. I have even a jukebox. I have everything, but I don't.
Wow.
We'll have to go round to Andreas' house someday and have a good old listen.
All right, collectors who are purchasing Andreas's incredible artwork, do not send him music as presents.
Yeah.
Send him something else.
Send him new contact, new buyers. So listen, there's 90 minutes. Andreas, I am honoured and to have had your time for so much of your time tonight for In the Metal. It's been absolutely fantastic. I do have to apologise for not getting around to some of the amazing pieces that you've been responsible for. It's lovely to see Mark Schwartzer from Vault, who's a great friend of ours, and I know a great friend of yours. And wait, what?
No.
No, not tonight.
It's just an old prototype I found. Nobody knows that it still exists.
What's Paul Gerber?
Wow.
No, it's
No.
much.
Is it? I thought for a second on the small screen. Wow.
Nice. Bro, man.
What is that?
He's always killing it.
It's
cool.
the wristwatch. It's a wristwatch version of the Zwei.
I was thinking that's what it looked like. It was
That's cool.
amazing. Has that ever been seen before?
It was shown in Basel in 2000, I think.
I'm telling you, this is
20 years ago. Time goes so fast.
Yeah, we get old really fast. Our parents used to tell us that when we were little kids. You know, when you get older, time just flies right by. And we were like, yeah, I'm out here riding my bicycle, and it feels like 9 hours, but it's only been 5 minutes. And they were right. It just flies by. That's incredible, Andreas, man. You're not just an inspiration to all us watchmakers, such as myself and my friends and all the other watchmakers. When I've spoken at watchmaking schools, like you speak at so many places, man. You are literally a walking legend, and I'm not going to just wipe the bullshit off my nose. You're a walking legend, but you give back. You help so many others. Yes, we all have to make money in what we do, but you help others who are stuck, you know, and you invent.
I try to.
You're beyond creative. You're modest, and what you create, you know, breaks new ground for all of us to then, you know, build upon that, or maybe break an idea out from that. And you're a blessing to all of us, man, across the board. And really, we so appreciate all you do, man. Even all the unsung work, you know, it needs to come out. You're always welcome. You know, Johnny's going to tell you in a minute too, the same thing. Always welcome later on to come back. You know, hopefully after the pandemic clears up a little bit over here, and my timepiece here is done, I'll be traveling with Johnny, and we would hope to come visit you and hang out there and see a little bit more.
You're always welcome.
Well, I can tell you, Andreas, it's been a pleasure and a half, because that hour and a half has just flown past. And I don't know, we only touched on a small part of the things that I had hoped to talk about. But would love to extend or tell you that the door is always open to you to come back, and hopefully we could talk about one of the things that Dan and I have discussed before was looking at a particular complication in isolation and going into the intricacies and the solutions and the different ways of creating that. So maybe in 3 or 4 months' time down the line, we could maybe come and, if we're going to do the moon phase, maybe you join us for that. And but for tonight, it's been fantastic. People who've been following, thank you so much for watching. Andreas, you hold on there for one moment while we say our goodbyes. And to everybody who has been watching In the Metal, this has been another exceptional episode. a fantastic insight into the life, the mind of literally a genius of modern contemporary watchmaking, and a man whose influence spreads far and wide throughout the independent and even into the mainstream industry. It's been a great pleasure. Please come and join us again next week, and we will bring another great piece of insight into independent watchmaking. But for now, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Dan, do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
That's it. Fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see